A woman called the unit directly and said her sister had been answering questions she had not been asked. After hours transmission, Private Anomaly Research Unit, Case File 006, Agents Mercer and Jones deployed, Bell Hollow, Kentucky, population 84. The property sits at the end of a 4-mile dirt road that winds up through tobacco fields and dead orchards into the hills above the hollow. There are no neighbors within sight, no phone signal past the second cattle gate. The nearest paved road is 6 miles back. The nearest town is 20. The house is a 2-story farmhouse, white, built in 1908. It has been in the same family for 4 generations. The current occupants are 2 sisters, Joanne Pell, age 41, Marlene Pell, age 38. Joanne contacted the unit by writing a letter. The letter was addressed to a P.O. box that has not been published anywhere. She sent it 6 days ago. It arrived 4 days ago. It said only this: "My sister is still in the house. She is also not. Please come. Bring someone who has done this before." There was no return address. The postmark was Bell Hollow. Agents Daniel Mercer and Lana Jones drove up the 4-mile road just before noon. The sky was overcast. The fields on either side of the track were brown and unworked. A few crows lifted off a fence line as they passed. Jones watched them go. "Crows are still here," she said. Mercer nodded. "Then it's not territorial, or it doesn't bother with them." Mercer didn't answer. They reached the house. A woman was already standing on the porch waiting for them. Tall, thin, dark hair pulled back. She looked like she had been standing there for a long time. Mercer stopped the vehicle a good distance from the porch. He cut the engine. "You're Joanne," he said through the open window. The woman nodded. "I was watching the road. I saw your dust an hour ago." Jones looked toward the front door of the house. It was closed. The curtains in the upstairs windows were drawn. "Where's your sister, Joanne?" Joanne's eyes did not move from the road behind them. "Inside," she said. "She's been inside for 9 days." They stepped onto the porch slowly. Joanne did not invite them in. She stood with her back to the front door, almost as if she were guarding it from the outside. Mercer noticed that the door had been fitted with a deadbolt that locked from the porch side. Someone had installed it recently. The wood around it was still pale, where the original paint had been chipped away. "You locked her in," Jones said quietly. Joanne nodded. "How long ago?" 4 days. Mercer studied the door. "She knows you locked her in." "Yes." "Has she tried to get out?" Joanne thought about the question for a long moment. "Not the way you mean," she said. Jones looked at her. "What does that mean?" Joanne turned her head slowly toward the door. "She doesn't push on it. She doesn't yell. She just answers questions. From inside, through the door. Questions I haven't asked." Mercer kept his voice level. "Give us an example." Joanne swallowed. "Yesterday morning I was in the kitchen. I was thinking about whether I should call our cousin in Lexington. I hadn't said anything. I hadn't even moved toward the phone." She paused. Marlene called through the door. She said, "Don't. He won't come." Jones glanced at Mercer. Mercer kept his eyes on Joanne. "Has she said anything else?" Joanne nodded. 3 nights ago I was lying in bed. I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about our father. He passed in 2011. I was thinking about something he used to say to us when we were small. She looked at the door again. Marlene said it through the wall, word for word, in his voice. Mercer was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "When did this start?" Joanne told them. 9 days ago, the sisters had been in the orchard at the back of the property. Marlene had wanted to clear the deadfall. They had been working since morning. Around 4 in the afternoon, Marlene had walked off into the tree line behind the orchard to check a fence post. She came back 40 minutes later. She was walking normally. She was smiling. She said the post was fine, but she did not have her gloves with her. Joanne pointed this out. Marlene looked down at her hands. She seemed surprised. She said she must have left them by the post. She said she would go get them in the morning. That night, at dinner, Marlene reached for the salt with her left hand. Marlene was right-handed, had been right-handed her whole life. Joanne watched her sister salt her food with her left hand and not notice. That was the first thing, Joanne said. The gloves, the hand, small things. I told myself she was tired. Jones made a note. When did the small things stop being small? Joanne thought. The next morning, she said. I came downstairs and she was already at the kitchen table. She was sitting in our father's chair. We don't sit in that chair. We haven't sat in that chair since he died. It's the chair at the head of the table. I asked her why she was sitting there. She looked at me and she said, I was waiting for you to come down. Joanne looked at Mercer. She had never said that before. Not in that voice. The voice was hers. The words weren't. Mercer nodded slowly. And then she started answering things I hadn't asked, and I started locking my bedroom door at night, and 4 days ago I locked her in her own room with the deadbolt I drove into town to buy, and I wrote your unit a letter. She paused, and I haven't slept since. Jones spoke carefully. Joanne, we need to ask you something, and we need you to answer honestly. Joanne nodded. Do you believe your sister is still in there? Joanne did not answer for a long time. I believe most of her is still in there, she said finally. I believe she can hear me. I believe she knows what I'm doing, and I believe she's letting it use her. Mercer's expression did not change. Letting it? Joanne nodded. It asks her things, she said. Through the wall, I've heard it. At night, it asks her questions, and she answers. What kind of questions? Joanne looked at the door. It asks her what I'm thinking about. The temperature on the porch had not changed, but Jones felt the cold settle on her shoulders anyway. Mercer asked Joanne to step away from the door. She did, slowly. She walked to the far end of the porch and stood with her back against the railing. She did not look at the door. Mercer approached it. He did not touch it. He stood about 2 feet away and listened. For a long time he heard nothing. Then, very quietly, from the other side of the wood, a voice said, Hello, Daniel. Jones went still. Mercer did not move. He did not look back at Jones. He kept his eyes on the door. The voice on the other side was a woman's voice. Soft, not strained, not angry. It sounded like someone who had been waiting patiently for a long time and was finally able to speak. You drove a long way, the voice said. You must be tired. Mercer kept his voice level. Are you Marlene? Some of me, the voice said. Jones moved closer to the door. She kept her hand near her side. She did not draw anything. There was nothing here to draw against. Marlene, Jones said, can you tell us what happened in the orchard? The voice answered at once, calmly, conversationally. I went to check the fence. I saw something at the tree line. I thought it was a deer. It was not. It asked me a question. I answered. It asked me another question. I answered. By the third question, I was already walking back to the house. Mercer asked, What did it ask you? It asked me if I was lonely, the voice said. Joanne, on the far end of the porch, made a small sound. She did not speak. What was the second question? Mercer said. It asked me if my sister knew. Knew what? How lonely I was. Jones watched Mercer's face. He did not react. but she had been working with him long enough to see when he was holding still on purpose. "And the third question," Mercer said. The voice on the other side of the door paused. Then it said, "It asked me if I would let it in if it promised not to take all of me." Mercer was quiet for a long moment. "And you said yes," he said. "I said yes." "It kept its promise," the voice said. "Most of me is still here. I can feel my hands. I can feel the floor. I can hear my sister breathing through the wall when she sleeps. I am still Marlene. I am also something else now. The something else is patient. It does not mind sharing." Jones spoke. She was careful with her words. "Marlene, the thing that's with you, is it speaking now?" "No," the voice said. "It is listening." "Where is it?" "Behind me." Jones felt her stomach tighten. "Marlene," Mercer said, "step away from the door." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because it wants to keep listening." Jones glanced at Mercer. Mercer's voice stayed level. "Marlene, we can help you. We've seen this before." There was a long silence on the other side of the door. Then the voice said, very quietly, "No, you haven't." Mercer did not respond. The voice said, "You've seen things that hide. You've seen things that pretend. You've never seen one that was invited. You've never seen one that kept its word." Then the voice said, almost gently, "Daniel, you should ask your partner about Webster." Jones turned her head sharply. Mercer did not move. "You should ask her," the voice said, "what she heard in that basement, what it offered her, whether she answered." Jones's mouth was dry. She did not look at Mercer. She kept her eyes on the door. Mercer said calmly, "We're done with this conversation. All right, Daniel." "But she heard it," the voice said. "And it heard her. And it remembers." Mercer stepped back from the door. He walked to the far end of the porch where Joanne was standing. "Joanne," he said, "is there a phone in the house?" Joanne shook her head. "Cell phones don't work up here. The landline is in the kitchen. She can hear the kitchen from her room." "All right," Mercer said. "We're going to drive back down to the cattle gate. There's signal there. We're going to make some calls. We will be back inside 2 hours." Joanne looked at him. "Don't leave me here with her." "We're not leaving you," Mercer said. "We're getting people who can help. Stay on the porch. Don't open the door. Don't answer her if she speaks to you. She'll speak to me. I know. She'll say things only Marlene would know. I know." Joanne's eyes were wet. "What do I do when she does?" Mercer thought for a moment. "You hum," he said. "You hum something loud. You don't let her words land." He turned to leave. Then he turned back. "And Joanne, if she starts answering the things you're humming, you walk down the road and you meet us coming back." Joanne nodded. They drove back down the 4-mile road in silence. The fields were the same. The crows were gone now. Jones did not speak until they were nearly to the cattle gate. "Webster wasn't a closed file," she said. Mercer kept his eyes on the road. "I know. How does it know about Webster?" Mercer did not answer immediately. Then he said, "It knows because she told it." Jones looked over at him. "Marlene," Mercer said, "when she answered those 3 questions in the orchard, she didn't just let it in. She gave it everything she knew. And it has been collecting since." "She doesn't know about Webster?" "No," Mercer said, "but the thing inside her has been asking around." Jones was quiet. "There are others," she said. Mercer nodded. "More than one. Talking to each other." "Maybe." She looked out the window. The hills rolled away on either side of them. She was thinking about a basement in Webster, Pennsylvania. She was thinking about a voice that had asked her a question she had never told anyone about. She was thinking about her answer. She had answered no. She had answered no. She was almost certain she had answered no. They reached the cattle gate. Mercer stopped the vehicle and got out. He walked a few paces up the road with his phone held high, looking for a signal. Jones stayed in the passenger seat. She watched him in the side mirror. Then she heard, very softly, from the back seat behind her, a woman's voice. It said, "Lana." Jones did not turn around. The voice said, "It's all right. You answered no. I remember." Jones closed her eyes. The voice said, "But you thought about it, and it heard you think." Jones opened her eyes. There was nothing in the back seat. There had been nothing in the back seat since they left the house. She was certain of that. She got out of the vehicle. She walked over to Mercer. "Did you get through?" she said. Mercer was on the phone. He held up a finger. He spoke to someone on the other end for about 90 seconds. Then he hung up. "Containment team is 6 hours out," he said. "Closest one. We hold the porch until they get here." Jones nodded. She did not tell him what she had heard. They drove back up the 4-mile road. The sky had darkened. A light rain had started. The dirt track had turned dark and slick. When they reached the house, Joanne was no longer on the porch. The front door was open. Mercer stopped the vehicle 10 yards from the house. He cut the engine. He did not get out. Jones spoke first. "She wouldn't have opened it." "No," Mercer said. "Then it wasn't her who opened it." Mercer's eyes were on the doorway. The doorway was empty. The house beyond it was dark. Then Joanne stepped into the doorway. She was smiling. Joanne had not smiled once in the time they had been with her. Mercer kept his hands on the steering wheel. "Jones," he said quietly. "Reverse. Now." Jones did not move. She was still looking at the doorway, at the woman standing in it. Joanne raised her hand and waved at them. Slowly, friendly. She called out, "It's all right. Marlene's better now. Come in." Mercer reached past Jones and put the vehicle into reverse himself. He drove backwards down the 4-mile road for nearly half a mile before he turned around. In the side mirror, Jones watched the figure on the porch. It did not chase them. It did not move. It just stood and watched them go, smiling, with one hand still raised. When they finally turned the vehicle, Jones spoke. "There were 2 of them in there." "Yes." Joanne let it in. "At some point." "Yes." "When?" Mercer thought. "Probably the first night she heard her sister say the thing their father used to say," he said. "Probably right then. It would have been too much to bear alone. It would have offered her something. Company. The chance to keep her sister. Something." Jones was quiet. "She wrote the letter before that," she said. "Yes." "So, part of her knew. Part of her was still trying." "Yes." Jones looked at the road ahead. "What happens now?" "We meet the containment team at the cattle gate," Mercer said. "We brief them. We do not go back up to that house tonight." "And the sisters?" Mercer did not answer for a long moment. "There are no sisters in that house anymore," he said. The containment team arrived just before midnight. Mercer briefed the team lead at the gate. Jones stayed in the vehicle. She watched the rain on the windshield. She thought about Webster. She thought about whether she had really answered no. She was almost certain. Almost. Containment moved up the 4-mile road at 1:15 in the morning. They reached the house at 1:40. They reported the front door still open. They reported the porch empty. They reported lights on in the upstairs bedroom. They reported voices. They reported that the voices answered them before they spoke. The team withdrew at 2:10 in the morning. the property was sealed. The 4-mile road was barricaded at the cattle gate. The nearest neighbor, 6 miles south, was visited and informed that the road would be closed for the foreseeable future. He did not ask why. Bell Hollow has been added to the unit's standing exclusion list. Joanne Pell, status compromised. Marlene Pell, status compromised. Entity designation pending. Subject category, invitational. Note appended by Agent Mercer. Subjects of this category cannot be expelled by force. They must be revoked. Revocation requires the host's consent. In all 6 recorded cases of this category to date, no host has revoked. Recommend continued monitoring of all agents who have had verbal contact with category invitational entities, including Agent Jones. Peru case file 006 remains unresolved.